So today we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where ASEAN has a civil war. Now, did I just pronounce that correctly? I have no idea. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations. I have been looking for the correct pronunciation, and all of my answers are different. So please let me know in the comments how you pronounce this correctly. Anyway, we'll be taking a look at that, but if you do enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you are new. All the support is greatly appreciated, and let's go ahead and jump straight into the scenario. Alright, so the association includes almost all of Southeast Asia. Actually, it does include all of Southeast Asia. From Myanmar down to Indonesia and over to the Philippines, we will be looking at a civil war between these countries. And the two sides are going to be the two strongest nations, so Indonesia and the Philippines. Now it's time for us to fill in the rest of the sides. And right away, we're going to be having Malaysia and Brunei joining the side of the Philippines. They are kind of like rivals toward each other. Now over here to Southeast Asia, where we'll be having Vietnam join the blue team, Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar joining the red team, and what to do with Thailand. We'll be throwing them on the blue team. So here is our two sides in this civil war, with the Philippines leading the blue team and Indonesia leading the red team. Now let's go ahead and get to the fighting. So the first area where fighting occurs is over here in Southeast Asia, with Vietnam and Thailand meeting up in the center of Laos, splitting the country into two pieces. And from here, they will both start military operations to take out Cambodia, while over here in the west, we have Myanmar starting an invasion into the northern areas of Thailand. Down here with Malaysia, we have Indonesia starting an invasion into them. They will target Brunei, taking them out of the war almost immediately. And this part of Malaysia will fall pretty quickly, but they will experience some problems over here. I forgot to say it, but Singapore is on the blue team too. Now going back up north, Thailand will take over the panhandle area of Myanmar, all while still losing land up north to Myanmar, and even Laos is starting to push inwards. Only issue there is that Vietnam is now coming over, and they are dealing a lot of damage to Laos, eventually taking them out of the war and liberating a large part of Thailand. From here, Vietnam and Thailand will finish off Cambodia, making them surrender, and Thailand will now shift its focus over to finishing off Myanmar. Indonesia makes a landing in the southern tip of Malaysia down south, taking out Singapore and heavily crippling Malaysia. Too many M's. Then start to move up this peninsula and are threatening Thailand, who has to be very quick in finishing off Myanmar. The only issue is that they're struggling to get an offensive off the ground, and their progress against Myanmar is very slow. They're able to continue their work in the south, but up north they just aren't as lucky, and are heavily relying on their allies in Vietnam and the Philippines. Back down south, Indonesia will continue its march up north, now heading into Thailand and getting towards their capital. The armies here are put on defense, however, they are really no match for Thailand. However, they really are no match for Indonesia, and Bangkok is now under threat of being sieged by the Indonesians. Up north, Vietnam will work very vigilantly to get rid of Myanmar and take them out as quickly as they can. It's a relatively slow process, but they are able to go ahead and achieve this before Bangkok can be sieged, which just happened down south. So for the next couple of weeks, there will be an immense amount of fighting in this area. Meanwhile, Thailand will try to send forces down south to complete an encirclement, but this fails. Despite that though, they are able to make some progress back in Myanmar. And this is really the base of it, you know, Indonesia versus Southeast Asia. There's a lot of naval warfare happening over here. I think in the long run, Indonesia would most definitely win it. So they start to invade these tiny Filipino islands. Eventually move into this very long one, and then make a landing on the mainland, or I guess the main part of the archipelago, the Big Island. The Philippines will be quick to react to this and quickly kick them out of that island, but they do struggle in retaking the islands that they have already lost elsewhere. Back over in the capital of Thailand, the Indonesians are kicked out, but not before starting another offensive over here in the west, which is extremely successful, and they start getting towards the north of the city. Fearful of a possible encirclement, Thailand will start to push back these forces, but will lose ground in the south once more, and this city is once again under threat of being sieged by the Indonesians. They eventually move up and recapture the city, and this time it's not looking so good as the Indonesian forces are spreading out rapidly. They start moving towards the center of Thailand, and it looks like this country might fall very soon. They're having a lot of success in liberating their fallen ally of Myanmar, and this whole western region comes under their control. They now start to seep into the areas of Cambodia, and the blue team is on pack watch. So this alliance doesn't have too many members in it, or at least too many strong members in it. And this is a civil war video, but sometimes some foreign powers can get involved in these civil wars. I mean, it's a free chance to meddle in other countries' politics. So Australia will join the war on the side of the blue team. They will immediately start sending troops up north and invade the areas of Indonesia over here in New Guinea, taking out this island very quickly. Indonesia will be very quick to withdraw some of their troops from Southeast Asia, leading to an embarrassing frontline collapse, which leads to the recapturing of Bangkok and a large encirclement of troops within Cambodia. These troops are rid of, and Myanmar's frontline starts to fall back, as the blue team is able to push back Indonesia down over here to the panhandle. We additionally see the Philippines retake some of their lost islands and even make a landing over here in Malaysia. But in other news, the Indonesians were able to re-land on their island and start a counter-offensive against the Aussies. But this isn't a fair war for Indonesia at all. You know, they're fighting a three-front war, one in Southeast Asia, one against the Philippines, and now one against Australia. So they're going to send out a call for help, and they are going to get probably the best help they could ever get in China. China joins the war and also declares war on Taiwan, which would most likely bring the US into the war, but they're way over there. Who cares about them, right? But this is a part of China's plan to kind of expand their influence while also expanding their borders. Chinese troops start to flood into northern Vietnam, and this is not looking good for the blue team. Laos is starting to get invaded by Chinese troops, and so is Myanmar. And a lot of this kind of unoccupied area is very easily reclaimed by China as the troops start to head down south and face against the blue team's resistance. So very quickly, this war has just gotten a little bit out of hand, and Taiwan just fell. Not just kidding, but the Chinese troops do make a landing here and begin a very long and bloody battle against the Taiwanese. Back over here in Southeast Asia, Thailand will make a campaign to get as much of their land back as possible, and they will kick the Indonesians almost all the way back to the border of Malaysia. But they really don't have their priorities straight because China is now entering into their country up north and is showing little to no signs of slowing down. Vietnam begins to lose a lot of major cities, and eventually they will be forced to surrender over to China. All of Laos is retrieved, as well as Cambodia, and the Chinese start to encircle into Thailand, who will eventually, after losing their capital, be forced to surrender. China then moves down into the peninsula area, I don't know what this thing is, and they will eventually meet up with Indonesian forces. They would now kind of exit from this area and focus on the South China Sea and Taiwan and the Philippines, and over in Taiwan this is going great. They're able to go up north and capture Taipei, knocking Taiwan out of the war. But back down south here, Australia is kind of having its way with Indonesia, as they're able to kick the Indonesians back off of their own island, and they start a campaign of island hopping. Additionally, we see the Philippines get kicked out of Malaysia, and now it's Australia and the Philippines versus China and Indonesia, as well as the revived allies. After capturing Taiwan, China will now start to move its navy down south towards the Philippines, and you know, I haven't done naval battles in such a long time. I might start to bring those back because those were cool. I think they were cool. Let me know in the comments. Anyway, China's navy is pushing up against the Philippines and eventually is kind of defeated, which is kind of not good. Kind of, maybe. The Chinese push towards Manila and capture the capital city of this grand island chain. I mean, there's thousands of islands here. Philippines. Beautiful. Never been there, though. After the fall of their capital, though, Australia is going to go ahead and leave the war and kind of surrender, or I guess a better way of saying it is they're going to agree to peace, because you don't want to throw hands with both Indonesia and China at the same time when they have no other enemies to worry about. That's a battle that you would most certainly lose. So let's take a look at this peace treaty. And looking at this peace treaty here, we can see the red team had their way with the blue team. Indonesia is huge. They annex all of Malaysia, Singapore, and a lot of southern Thailand. They make a deal with Australia to basically have a no land exchange. Even though Australia was winning in this area, they were still losing the war overall, so they won't be giving up any land. So the Indonesians will not be giving up any land to the Australians. Essentially, Australia got nothing out of this war. But now on up over to Southeast Asia, we can see that Vietnam no longer exists, and Laos and Cambodia got a ton of land. Thailand does still exist, and that's mostly because they're just a little bit bigger than Vietnam is, and Vietnam's shape is kind of hard to maintain when these countries need to get land, so they don't exist anymore. But Thailand does, even though if the roles were reversed, it would make more sense for Vietnam to survive this war. Anyway, Myanmar is large. China got all of northern Vietnam and a bit of the Philippines, as well as all of Taiwan, so they are most likely happy, and they can now kind of make that claim that they own the South China Sea. It's a little bit more realistic now. You don't have to make man-made islands anymore, China. Anyway, that will do it for today's video. I hope you guys did enjoy it, and if you did, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you guys want to see more videos that are revolved around ASEAN, then let me know in the comments. Make sure to also let me know how the hell you pronounce that, because apparently people who speak English don't know. And I'm sure it's like pronounced differently in all the different countries that are members of it, so it's likely that I'll never know the answer. Anyway, once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And of course, thank you to all our super fans. This includes Arentine, Georgie Badev, Serminator, German Edits, HammerToad45, Connor the Gamer, Poland Country Ball, Nevada Garbage Trucks, and DW Cool Dude. Once again, thank you guys.